Hello and welcome to Fresh Face Comics, the comic book podcast where a lifelong comic book reader guides his friend through the world of comics for the first time. My name is Joey Morgan, the aforementioned lifelong reader. With me as always is Jacob Licklider, the aforementioned newbie.
So we're going to be making fun of Brie Larson like a bunch of idiots today, aren't we?
No, we're
All
not.
right.
We are not. This is not that Captain Marvel. This is a different Captain Marvel because their name isn't even Captain Marvel, Jacob. So fuck you. We're talking about Shazam by Jeff Johns, and to talk about Shazam by Jeff Johns with us today, we have our friend Rachel Pernell.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast. I know you've been listening for a while, and it's fantastic to have you on. Also, we just needed some guests on, so thank you so much. So yeah, So today we're talking about Shazam by Jeff Johns. These being the backup stories from the New 52 Justice League title, all collected in one big volume, which they apparently decided to call Volume 1, even though it's not. There aren't any other volumes, so
Which
whatever.
is a real shame.
Seriously,
Well,
yeah,
it's not the only thing for the character that Johns wrote.
that's true. That's very true. And also, being a backup to Justice League, it does it is meant to tie directly into the Justice League run that we're already reading, so it works out, I guess. So I guess getting right into it, Jacob, what is Shazam about?
Well, we are returning to the land of New 52 origin stories. This time rewriting the classic DC and Fawcett Comics character Billy Batson, aka Captain Marvel, into Shazam after several lawsuits and a very interesting history. And honestly, redefining the character in a way that apparently is very mixed for some people.
Which I don't get, because I don't know. I love this portrayal of Billy myself.
I think it actually might be important for a character like Billy to be modernized and I think it's something that Jeff Johns does really well in reflecting on the state of someone who would be a foster kid in the modern day instead of a foster kid from the 1940s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that. And Rachel, what was your history with the character before reading this comic?
I knew that the character existed and that the movie existed and that and I had heard about the whole Captain Marvel versus DC thing.
Okay.
A little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that I knew that the power was like a kid who can turn into an adult, and but I think the thing that got me particularly interested in this was all this stuff that I've just said is stuff that I'd heard about before, but more recently when I went to see Wakanda Forever in theaters, I saw a trailer for the second Shazam movie, and I was like, okay, this seems like something I might like, because previously, I feel like I've seen clips or just very just promotional stuff with Shazam in passing, from the first movie, and I just got very annoying vibes off of Shazam. So I was just not into it until I saw the trailer for the second one. I was like, okay, cool. I might like this.
Cool. Awesome. So, awesome. So I guess actually getting into it though, opening up our actual non-spoiler section. So this is, as Jacob mentioned, an origin, a redone origin story for the character of Shazam. And overall, I mean, when it comes to approaching a whole new origin for the character, Jacob, as someone that has a fair bit of history with Jeff Johns as a writer, how do you think Johns pulls that off?
So I genuinely think Johns, the more and more I read of Johns, the better I think he is when he's doing something like this, where it's just one character really to focus on. Not to say that I've disliked his Justice League run so far. I've just found when it really gets individual focus on one person is when Johns kind of excels. While still bringing sort of that, I'm Jeff Johns, this is going to be a blockbuster in comic form.
Yeah, because I have noticed that most of what you've enjoyed from the stuff that we've read of his are his Green Lantern and Aquaman runs.
Yes.
And those still, like, despite being like smaller character pieces, are also big stories too. He still does
Yeah,
a
I
lot
mean,
with them.
like Sinestro Corps War is a big epic. I'd argue this is kind of a small epic, an epic, but on a miniature, partially because it's backup stories, which made reading this kind of interesting, just because there wasn't obviously there wouldn't be any sort of delineation on issue to issue,
Yeah.
since they're so small, but also just how this almost feels like one big story that wasn't entirely meant to be serialized.
Yeah. Did anyone else sort of like make a game of just like trying to figure out what the end of backup story cliffhangers were? Like, I don't know. I was trying to like call it, like, some of them are pretty obvious, like when there's like a big page of like some character arriving for the first time. Like, there are those. But other than that, like, it could be hard to tell sometimes like when exactly the backup cut off.
Yeah.
The extent of the thought that I put into that was, I guess that was a thing. I wonder if the people who have more experience with comics figured out where those were.
Fair. Fair enough. Actually, I guess that was another question I wanted to ask, Rachel, was your history with comics altogether before this?
Yeah, not a lot. Um, I, it, I've kind of so probably my first exposure to comics was like I remember sleeping over at one of my cousin's houses when I was little, and he had a bunch of original Spider-Man comics.
Oh, cool.
And I read those, loved those.
Nice.
I feel kind of bad actually, because I was kind of like I felt like that was the main thing I was like looking forward to it when I went to his house instead of like hanging out with my cousin. But
that's funny.
Yeah, so that was great fun. I didn't really read a lot of comics after that. I probably the two, although these are more of like, but like graphic novel versus comic, is it just kind of different names, or is there a more to that?
I mean,
I think you cut out for a second.
You cut out for a second.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I just missed the one bit of the point you said before you mentioned the graphic novels.
Oh yeah, I was just saying like I don't fully understand if there's like a difference or if it's just a difference in naming.
So graphic novels we typically use to like refer to like things outside of your out of like your standard issues that were released as like, as like a single comic on the shelf of a comic book
Gotcha.
store. Terminology wise, like, you use issue to talk about like a single like 20 to usually about like 20-25 page issue, somewhere around there. Or if it's an annual, something like double length. We use trade.
I would argue like graphic novels and comics, they're part of the same medium and they have a lot of the same storytelling conventions.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, because I was just gonna say, I did read the. I don't know if you're familiar with the Star Wars, which is the graphic novel adaptation of like the original draft script for Star Wars: A New Hope.
I know of it. I've never read it.
Okay, I've read it. I really enjoy it. It's great fun. And then
Cool.
So that, like, in between me reading Spider-Man comics at my cousin's house and you guys starting this podcast, my main exposure to the whole like comic graphic novel format was the Star Wars and the Mouse Guard series. I don't know if you ever heard of that either.
I have
never heard
not.
of that.
But that's like that's something that combines something that I've always really liked, which is like like sword fighty fantasy with talking animals, and then it's that, but like graphic novels.
Gotcha. And then I think, had you read anything to coincide with the podcast? I forget.
Yes, I read let's see. I I read, I think the first 3 or 4 episodes of the podcast.
Cool.
I know I did The Long Halloween, year 1, Court of Owls and City of Owls.
And I guess Killing Joke would have been the second episode.
Yes, I definitely did Killing Joke.
Nice.
I think that's as far as I got linearly, and then I also got some of the comics for some of the more recent episodes. Like I've started reading the Suicide Squad Trial by Fire.
Nice. That's awesome. And how far are you into that? Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, I think I'm 3 issues in if you count the introductory one.
Oh, Secret Origins, yeah.
Yeah, so I got to the end of the first mission.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. So let's see. I guess let's get into Twitter questions now. Let's see. Our first one comes from Jamie at Jamie_season7 says, "Does Black Adam change the hierarchy of the DC universe in this?" I think, Jamie, if you're gonna meme on us, I think you should get the quote right. It's the hierarchy of power in the DC universe. And what would we say on that?
Not really.
Not really. Yeah.
I feel like it'd have to be a more significant.
Yeah.
Wider
Black Adam
universe
also
thing.
is just generally a bit more of a background player in this book, I think. But yeah. And then we got a couple questions from our friend Mason at the GD256. One, rank the 2 Captain Marvel movies. I'm assuming between the 2019 Shazam film and the 2019 as well Captain Marvel film.
So I haven't seen Captain Marvel actually.
I have. I personally prefer Shazam. Captain Marvel's fine, but I prefer Shazam.
No, Joey, it's evil and terrible, and everything about it is awful.
That's true. I can't forget that.
I do not know which. I've seen both movies. I don't know which of the 2 I prefer.
Okay.
But there's it's completely different things that appeal to me about each of them.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Let's see. Mason's second question is, why does it say 1 on the side? Was it intended to have sequels? I don't think so. I think that might just be a publishing error. Because John's never intended to continue this, as far as I know. It was just meant to lead into Shazam's involvement in Trinity War.
I wonder if they were going to do like more from the pages of Justice League. They were going to do more backups throughout John's run, and then they fell through
that would
somehow.
That would be really cool. But yeah,
Like-
let's see. Mason's third question says, genuine question: what is the story between the Marvel Captain Marvel and the DC Captain Marvel? What happened there, if you know? I think actually, Jacob, you're oddly enough more knowledgeable on this.
Yeah, because here's the thing. I'm a curious bastard who's always just wondering why. So Captain Marvel for DC came first, but he wasn't owned by DC. He was owned by a company called Fawcett, and they got into DC sent them a lawsuit because they thought Captain Marvel infringed on the copyright of Superman. The lawsuit had a weird outcome where DC was paid money, but it was also somehow in Fawcett's favor. And then eventually Fawcett loaned out Captain Marvel, the character, to DC. The name, it was basically a thing that kind of couldn't be trademarked. So that's how you kind of got both the Marvel Captain Marvel and the character of Marvel Man that Alan Moore made famous.
That's true. But then also the character that is now named Captain Marvel in Marvel Comics was originally Ms. Marvel before Marvel took that name. And DC changed their Captain Marvel to Shazam.
Name-wise. With this book. In short, it's weird. Comic book lawsuits are weird. Comic books are weird, and we love them.
Yeah, absolutely. Overall, though, I think this is a character that is better suited to the name Shazam, personally.
I mean, Captain Marvel is kind of a generic name.
Yeah, exactly.
It probably doesn't help that the first time I heard the name Captain Marvel was in Holy Musical Batman.
Oh, nice.
Which I don't think Shazam appears in that.
No, he doesn't.
Oddly enough, Spider-Man does.
That is true. That is true. If you guys haven't watched Holy Musical Batman, fucking watch it. It's great.
It's great.
What? But yeah. All right. I guess that about does it. What else to add
Interestingly,
before we move into spoilers?
I do think, because I as an origin story, I think this is a really good jumping on point for the character. Like it works really, really well. But what kind of floored me, once again, was the art.
Mm,
Yeah.
Gary Frank.
The art is so good.
Um, this is the first thing we were doing that was drawn by Gary Frank,
Mhm.
and I hope it isn't the only thing.
I mean, Gary Frank is a little bit of everywhere, much in the way of like other Jeff Johns adjacent artists that we've read from before. So yeah, you'll definitely see more Gary Frank in the future. Yeah, a lot of great stuff he's done. All right, I guess that about does it for non-spoilers. Read this book if you haven't already. It's a really, really fun ride.
It's also very light, I should say. Like
Yeah.
after our last episode was a very heavy, in-depth, like analytical read, it's very nice to take a step back and do just something that's a lot of light fun, but
Yeah.
light fun with a lot of genuine heart to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Really enjoyable. And also, if you haven't watched it, watch the 2019 film. We'll talk about that at the end of this because the 2019 film is literally just this book plus or minus Black Adam.
Minus Black Adam.
So yeah, it's a really faithful adaptation and actually adds quite a few things that the book doesn't have. And of course, as always with any good comic adaptation, there are strengths and weaknesses in both. Things to love in both, things to not love as much in both. But overall, both are fantastic, and you should check them out. So. All right, let's do this. Let's move into our spoiler section, which I can't imagine is actually going to be all that long because it's a pretty small volume.
Yeah, this is. But hey, we have things to talk about.
We do.
Obviously, they won't be by issue because this is all one story. Which, honestly, I feel bad for whoever was trying to read this month to month in the backups. Like,
oh right, yeah, because each section is so small. Like,
yeah.
But
yeah. So we open with Shazam.
We get a little teaser here at the beginning, which is pretty fun, which was probably its own little backup in and of itself. Just these like opening 2 pages, which probably opened up some Justice League issue, telling you what would come next time. But it's still fun. It's a nice little thing. Really shows off Gary Frank's art because Gary Frank is just fucking brilliant. I especially love this that big like splash page where it says Shazam. It says this is his story. Like just really great stuff there.
I also I don't know. I love the way they give Shazam a hood.
Yeah, it's nice. I always like Shazam.
It's kind of cheesy, but I love it. Like
great look.
But yeah, what we find interesting when we actually open is that it takes a while for Shazam to show up after this point. Like we open really proper with a man, just on a normal day going to work, looking a homeless guy some money, stepping into an elevator, and suddenly everything goes black.
He is transported into this giant chamber with a big lightning bolt on the floor. We get this nice narration saying what happened over it. Says there was an old man with a long shaggy beard sitting on it. He said something about being worthy. He asked me questions. There was a lot of smoke, lights. Then the old man seemed to get agitated. There was another explosion of lightning. And suddenly I was back in the elevator. So we sort of like zoom out from this great opening sequence and see that a doctor, when Dr. Savannah is watching these tapes from these people that all have like similar experiences, have all sort of gone through this same thing in one way or another, and it is following this connection between them all. They all talk about how the wizard said like Shazam at one point. They're just things that like pretty much like the same experience with all these different people, and it seems to be quite a few of them.
Yes. Now, what I find actually really, really interesting about Dr. Savannah is that we don't really get a full backstory for him. Like, we get this tiny little bit of his family's dead, and he believes science has failed him, so he's turning to magic.
I don't know that they even explicitly say his family's dead. He just keeps saying that he has to use magic to save his family. It's very vague.
Yeah, I mean, I'd argue it's kind of implied that he's dead, that his family's dead. I don't think we ever actually get his family's name.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Yeah, so it's really interesting with the way the film adapts this character.
Yeah, because I really do like what the film does with him.
The film does at least that aspect way better, because that was one of the few things that I was like could have been better about the comic. Was he he mentions his family and that he needs to save them like 3 times, but that's
Savannah in the book at least is more the secondary villain, because the main villain obviously in this case is Black Adam, whereas in the film Savannah becomes the main villain, and so they flesh out his character more, and it's done really well. Also, he's played by Mark Strong in the film, and that's just fucking awesome. But yeah, we go to 7 months later in Philadelphia. We meet up with one Billy Batson, who is a foster child, meeting with potential new foster parents, who are very interested in taking him into their home. We learn that they already have adopted children with them, living with them. And Billy at first seems very interested.
He is laying it on so thick.
Mhm.
It is just thick and saccharine. And I think the Vasquezes buy it, but also part of me thinks they don't entirely buy it. They kind of realize, nah, he's had a hard life. He's probably laying it on just to make sure he can be adopted.
The Vasquez's leave. Billy says, "What a couple of idiots!" To which his social worker scolds him for it. She's pissed off about this naturally, and Billy Batson is just a little shit.
Everything with Billy's social worker is so funny, and that is the thing I'm saddest about not making it into the movie, because their dynamic is so perfect.
Yeah.
Well, because she's kind of a total bitch. Like,
it's amazing.
Every time she's on screen, she's like, don't screw this up. Don't screw this up, Billy. This is your absolutely last time. And this is really where Johns is playing out his kind of frustrations with the foster care system being, genuinely kind of easy to let kids slip through the cracks and just not really place them in nice homes. And it's all done in a page.
The film does find other ways of portraying Billy's dickishness, but I do wish that the social worker was a bigger part of it. Yeah.
Also, I think in at least one panel, she looks kind of like Sandy Toxfig.
You're not wrong. Now I'm going to imagine Sandy Toxfig's angry voice.
But anyway, we go to Billy's going to his new home. We get a brief glimpse of the other foster children that live there. They're very excited that someone new is coming into the house.
And what Johns does in a single page is he really does a good job of giving each of the kids a distinct personality.
Yeah.
Especially since this is gonna be so short. This is only about the length of 6 issues ish,
something like that, maybe 7.
Yeah. But like you kind of already know. There's one of them's kind of shy. One of them's kind of nerdy. One of them's also a little shit. One of them's the one in charge, and one is ungodly positive. And
I love Darla. Great. Darla's I fucking love Darla so much.
She's amazing. I think she was the best adapted character in the movie.
I gotta say, when it comes to casting these kids in the film, I adore all of them. I love how they were all translated to the screen.
They also got they've got genuinely good child actors and a director who knows how to work with children.
Yeah,
which is a very difficult thing to actually do well. And was able to coax some very nice performances. But after our 1-page introduction to the kids, we actually meet Billy outside, and all he can think of is what a dump.
Yep. And we get some more bickering between him and the social worker.
This is my favorite. My favorite thing with them is when they just trade insults.
Oh, the old maid pest prune face thing.
And then they both have to switch to turn on the charm as soon as the door is open.
Yeah. It's really, really fun. So the social worker is obviously ecstatic to get Billy off her hands. The Vasquezes take Billy in. Billy is welcomed with open arms as there's a big sign that the kids made says "Welcome home, Billy." Also, interestingly, I do want to point out this book takes place around Christmas time, and I don't know, just something about like the holiday scenery for a lot of this book just really adds to the atmosphere, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it does. I mean, Christmas, the idea of the holidays being a time for family, and this being, on DC's old theme of the importance of family and
I
found
you know
family.
I was just gonna bring that up, Jacob, because we talked about that before, and one of your things you love about DC is the found family thing, and this is just that like full on,
And
in
done
its
really, really
purest form.
well.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah. But yeah, all the kids are adorable.
Mhm.
Billy, I love the way Frank draws Billy as he just as there's something about Frank's faces, right? Like the way he draws faces are ever so slightly exaggerated,
Mhm.
but not enough to go like uncanny valley creepy. But like you just know, looking at a face drawn by Gary Frank, what the character's deal is and what's going through their head at this perfect moment.
Mhm.
Because Billy can't adjust well to being genuinely cared for and
Yeah.
wanting to be known. And honestly, I sympathize.
Yeah.
Like like I don't know. Rachel, you may also agree, but like going basically trying to go into a new home with an entirely new family, and with the fact that I believe in the book he thinks his mom's actually dead, and he's we never really get an explanation of where his mom is.
Yeah, his
Um,
Mhm.
his parents aren't really that big of a deal in the book comparatively.
yeah,
Mhm.
and
I I think there's like a couple lines that mention that he might not know what happened to them, but it's not really a big thing.
Yeah.
I think that's actually a really good choice for the story, um,
Yeah.
especially since like you know some kids just are given into the system, and here's Billy trying to adjust. The kids all introduce themselves.
We have Mary, Freddie, Pedro, Eugene, and of course Darla,
Darla.
who has the best like introduction where she like hugs him. I love the way the lettering is done there with the
Yeah.
speech bubbles. Like
A little
it's
heart.
it's lovely. Um, but Billy very quickly makes his true feelings on the whole thing very apparent. Um, he starts being a real dick to all the rest of the kids. He says like directly to Darla's face, even he's like, "I'm not your brother. We're not family. None of you really are." And Darla cries. And it's the saddest thing ever. I fucking like just it
Yeah.
breaks my heart. Mary scolds him for this, and he stays in his room then for the time being. He then pulls out this picture of seemingly his parents at the zoo from a while ago, or I guess his quote unquote real parents, with this tiger behind them. He puts the picture away, and also I'm pretty sure this is where one of the backups would have cut off with the lightning and the wizard's face in the clouds.
Hmm.
It must have. But what's also interesting is, he even says, "I didn't mean to make her cry," really giving Billy a lot of nuance. Because you have the Vasquez's, realizing, okay, he probably needs. Again, they didn't really buy his act completely. It's like let him adjust, let him in his own time come to realize we actually do care and we want the best for this kid. Um,
I think they do an even better job of that in the movie with the foster parents especially.
Mhm.
which is fair because the movie honestly I'd argue has more time to devote to that being a film.
Yeah.
Whereas in a comic, you actually have quite a few less pages, and this is just these were just backups. Because we
Mhm.
see because we then open the next morning. Darla doesn't hold a grudge at all because she
Yeah.
is too pure for this innocent world.
Mhm.
Um, and she's like, hooray! Now we can eat breakfast. Um, and we have to say, she doesn't get mad at anyone. I think there's something wrong with her short-term memory.
To which Mary says there's nothing wrong with her, Eugene. Staying mad is a waste of time, which is just lovely, you know. Again, I just love the family dynamic between these
Yeah.
kids. So
Also,
anyway, oh sorry, go ahead.
they're eating vanilla walnut waffles apparently, which sounds really good.
It does.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah. But anyway, so they go to school, just to get a brief look at their day at school.
I
Nothing
spot
crazy. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I spotted a reference here, just Jacob, because of what you said earlier. It's Fawcett High, which I guess is
Yes.
a reference to that original comic
Yeah.
publisher.
Oh,
The
hi, I never
original
thought about
comic
that.
company.
That is
Uh,
funny. I didn't think about that. Um, but yeah, anyway, so we get a brief glimpse into their day at school. Nothing crazy. We see that I just like Freddy's personality. Just a really really fun kid. This kid gets mad at him because Freddy, I guess, like faked a doctor's note for him, and Freddy wrote something like really terrible on it, but the kid didn't know the difference. Just funny stuff like that really really add to like the more human moments of this book.
yeah.
Then outside after school, the kids are attacked by bullies. Um, Specifically, they attack Freddy, which of course is an issue because Freddy is disabled. But Billy comes in and helps him. He defends him. He fights off the bullies, and of course, in the words of Bill Burr, the ref only sees the retaliation. Billy is brought to the principal's office then for this, and uh, and the principal again really really Jeff Johns I think really commenting on the system here. The principal ends up scolding Billy for the whole thing, and is shown to have like be I guess like in on the bully's father. She's like
Yes.
super nice to him, and even though like his kids are the ones that started the fight. The father leaves and she continues to scold Billy. Just a really interesting moment, I think.
Well, I mean, we find out that they're a rich. It's a rich family.
Yeah.
It's the upper class who pays plenty of money to the school, and I love Billy one immediately stepping into the fight. Like as a character, Billy just can't see an injustice happening. Because a part of the theme of this book is also kind of deconstructing the idea of what it would mean to be pure of heart, and a superhero has to be pure of heart.
Because Billy's a dick,
Yeah.
like Billy's just an unlikable kid, but he sees that and he goes to defend these kids that he doesn't even like because he sees an injustice being acted on.
He says he just doesn't like bullies.
Yeah. I just think that's really interesting. Obviously, something that gets played on later when Billy actually gets his powers.
And interestingly, he has the courage to go up to the kid's father and yell at him immediately next.
The father is another character that like I wish the film had used because he's terrifying.
Oh yeah. And even then, like Mr. Vasquez gets in on the fight then because Mr. Breyer starts attacking Billy as well. Mr. Breyer and the kids and the bullies drive away. We then cut over to 40 miles north of Baghdad, where Dr. Savannah has taken his expedition. He's with his like archaeology crew, I guess,
trying to find the tomb of Black Adam, who what's interesting is like, so I didn't actually know who Black Adam was, like as a character. I knew he was, Shazam's arch villain, and we're never gonna see a live action Shazam Black Adam fight. For rather silly reasons. But I find his character in this genuinely fascinating. I don't want to necessarily credit it to Johns because it feels like the backstory of Black Adam in general that Johns didn't create lends itself to a very sympathetic and interesting villain. Also a villain who can kick some ass. Because you can have both. You can have both.
Yeah, why not? But yeah, so we see Savannah joins his archaeology crew trying to dig into this the tomb of Black Adam. As Savannah like tries to like crowbar it open, pretty much he's hit by like lightning from the tomb, which scars his one eye and leaves this little mark there.
I love this full page spread of just I can see magic.
Oh, it's so good.
And oddly enough, something that they kind of keep in the film, which I loved. I
Yeah.
love that little detail. I love a lot of little details that translate over very well into the film,
Mhm.
as well as just work very, very nicely. Um, Especially, I like that we get these little pages and bits with Savannah. It's kind of a shame that he is then relegated to secondary villain status once Black Adam really enters the picture.
Yeah.
Um, because I think having two big villains like this in one story is almost a lot, especially since I don't recall Savannah ever really getting a chance to fight Billy. Um,
Not in
at
this, at
least,
least, because literally the fight that between him and the two fights between Billy and Savannah, or Billy and Black Adam, that they do translate from this book are given to Savannah, like the one in the mall and
yes.
all that.
And
Um,
Savannah doesn't have like powers in the book, does he? Beyond like the ability to see magic.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine he can now do magic. It's never really established, which I get. This is a collection of backups that are, telling its own little story, but it's still kind of a shame that we don't get a nice full characterization and arc for him. Um, but yeah, um,
we then
that
go over to the Vasquez's again. They're talking about how just Billy is different in general, but Billy is not like the rest of the kids, but they still want to give him a chance. Um, and
I like this detail. Um, uh, from that you should have seen the look on his face when I tried to help him up, Rosa. It was like no one had ever done it before, really implying that a lot of the foster homes Billy had been in were terrible and weren't
yeah,
great places, which is something that does happen in the system.
yeah.
Like it, it's a thing that happens. We also get the implication that Billy is listening at the door,
Yeah.
um, and that makes him want to leave.
So Billy sneaks out. Freddy sees that he's missing, and also there are pickles on the floor. um, Billy walks out in the middle of the night. He goes over to the zoo and goes to see the same tiger that's from that picture of his parents. Um,
I I love that Johns uses the tiger. Um,
yeah,
I
yeah.
also I love the tiger. Is there like some history with the tiger that
Um,
like before this?
Yeah, so the tiger is actually is part of the Shazam family, actually. It's not
ooh,
something that gets like directly translated here, but like, so the tiger like is still a character here. We actually read something with the tiger in it.
yeah,
In Flashpoint, the tiger made an appearance
and
with
the tiger has superpowers.
yes.
Love it.
And the way they did it in Flashpoint was that the Shazam family all made up the one Shazam being, which was Captain Thunder, I believe. And with that, his companion was the tiger with superpowers, and it was fucking awesome. So, yeah,
Right.
it was great. But yeah, so he goes to see the tiger. Freddy is spying on him.
He
Also, we
feeds
learned
the
this.
tiger a burger with no pickles, just how he likes it.
Also, the tiger's name is Tawny. Um,
Yes.
Yeah.
but yeah, so Freddy is spying on Billy. Billy finds out, in true Billy Batson fashion, proceeds to blow him off, and until Freddy, like Freddy's not there. He's not giving up on Billy, of course. So he sticks around. We then go over to once again to 45 miles north of Baghdad, still in the tomb
Tomb
of
of
Black
Black
Adam.
Adam.
Savannah's still looking through there. He looks through these through this like writing on the wall, and goes to this one wall where he says Shazam, and it unlocks this door in
Now he's
there.
the only one who can see the writing because he can see the magical inscriptions. And the
Mhm.
Shazam is what basically awakens Black Adam. Before, okay, now, let's take and realize Shazam as a character hasn't shown up at this point. Like
Yeah.
Billy is just normal old Billy Batson, and
Mhm.
we're not like an insignificant way into the book,
Yeah.
which I think it's weird because I don't know if it would have worked. I think it could have almost only have been done in a backup story where you're only getting a small piece of the puzzle instead of say buying this as a mini series where you would at least have one full issue without Shazam as a character.
Yeah, you would realistically, build up Billy throughout the first issue and have him become Shazam by the end of that first issue.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. Like the structure of this being a bunch of backup stories works better in general
Yes.
than making it its own thing. But also Black Adam's here now, and God, I love the way Gary Frank draws him. I love this first full page where he's like, "Where is the wizard?" And his whole face is covered in shadow. The way the lighting is done on it, from the lightning bolt on his chest. I love the cape. We don't do we don't do Black Adam with a cape enough. I was really mad that they didn't do the cape much in the Black Adam movie. Because I don't know, I just love the cape. Anyway,
I think Brad Anderson also has to be commended on his colors here. The next couple of pages, they're basically all gray and shades of gray, but they really work. It still somehow captures just the very vibrant nature of the art, which is a very tricky thing to do. Also, I like that Black Adam as a character doesn't look like Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yeah. Because he usually has hair in the comics.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a widow's peak. So now you know he's evil.
Exactly.
just villainous design.
Yeah. Really, Black Adam and Shazam, it's the classic good and evil buff man faces.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Wearing very similar costumes, it's great. They make a really fun pairing when you draw them together. But yeah, so Black Adam attacks these archaeologists. He's asking where the wizard is. Obviously, also at this point we haven't properly met the wizard yet. So he's looking for the wizard. He kills all these people in here except for Savannah, because Savannah says that he can help him. He says, "I'm the one who will help you find the wizard." And we end there. We go back over to Philly, where Billy and Freddie are just being dicks together, which is pretty fun. They go over to the Breyer household, and they go to get their attention. They're trying to break into the car. That's
with a hanger as a lockpick. Which, okay, I don't think that would even work in 2011.
I doubt it. But they try to break into there. The car alarm goes off. Billy pushes Freddy into a tree or into a bush, whatever it is, so that he won't be found. Billy gets the Briar's attention, and a chase begins between them. The kids go after him.
Once again, characters in these comics pack heat. The Mr. Briars comes out with I think a shotgun or a rifle.
Are we sure? I think
it might be a cane. I'm not sure.
It looks kind of like a cane.
I can't tell what it is from this image, at least. It could be like a bat or something.
It's only in the one panel, so I guess it doesn't matter. But anyways, so the Briar kids go after Billy. They chase him onto a subway. And he gets away from them. He's the only one on the subway car. Or there's this old woman there, I guess, with her dog, and the old woman disappears. And outside the subway turns into pitch black. The doors open again. The smoke comes in.
We come to this sort of old green and brown. This very interesting design for sort of to represent the magic that's almost Victorian, but modernized Victorian.
I really like the look of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's consistent. We saw it earlier with the elevator.
Yeah,
but
that was also
yeah.
But yeah, so Billy walks into this chamber.
Even just the way these swirling clouds of smoke around him are drawn is so good. It it captures this perfect eerie, whimsical magic vibe.
Yeah,
like the one.
And so we then see that the wizard is getting a vision that Black Adam has awoken. He's worried about that. Billy is looking through this chamber then, in which there are all these different artifacts, I imagine, over the years. We see a literal dragon skeleton. There's this magical mirror with a face on it. There's some armor, a couple weapons throughout. Just
there's
area.
a worm in a jar.
Oh no, that comes in later, I think.
Comes in later.
Yeah,
But yeah, there's also a snowman.
A snowman. Why not?
Just random snowman. Is
An
it a killer
ant.
snowman? No, just a snowman.
Just a snowman. But Billy walks up to this this area with this sort of hallway looking thing with these like seven pedestals on it that show like these seven, I guess, hologram type things or statues. They're portrayed in the movie as statues, but they don't appear until Billy walks up to them.
It feels very like they're holograms here because
Yeah.
he almost like has to press on a control panel.
Yeah.
And they represent the seven deadly sins, which I love the very design of the seven deadly sins in this comic. Like one, giving them each a color scheme is kind of a classic thing for things to do when they portray like anthropomorphic personifications of the seven deadly sins in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And the choices here are fascinating, but also just it really helps make them distinct.
Yeah. The movie really kind of was a letdown on at least that front of the distinguishing.
Yeah, they didn't go far enough with the designs, I think.
It just, I mean, they didn't even give them like pops of color, which is kind of a shame because that movie's very colorful, despite despite the seven deadly sin designs.
It's the Ozymandias and Watchmen all over again.
But yeah, so Billy walks by them, and he goes and he sees the wizard. Then the wizard is sitting on his throne. He's very old. He's sort of like hunched over. He has this big staff with a lightning bolt on the end.
And you really feel that this guy is just tired.
Yeah.
Like,
and also right now, especially that he's desperate since Black Adam has awoken. And so he's trying to find a new champion. He says he looks into Billy's mind and sees that Billy's a bit of a shit, obviously. and
yeah.
And he says like, oh, the wizard says like, why is the magic wasting my time with these flawed people? And so Billy like then tries to convince him of it. He's like, hey, like like no one can actually be all good. So the wizard looks again and sees like just all those small moments that make Billy kind of a decent person. He sees him with the tiger. He sees him with the briar bullies pushing Freddy into the bushes so that he's not seen. It's really nice. I like that moment.
And it's kind of I also like that, like when he's like sort of trying to convince him. Like, first of all, I love that it works, but then also, like, I love that he's not doing it because he wants whatever the wizard's giving him. He's just like, you're an idiot. You don't know how the world works.
Yeah, he's just kind of a little shit child who wants to prove a point to this old man. Which I think that's what kind of really convinces the wizard. Like, he's not seeking power.
Yeah.
He's just existing.
Yeah. And so in return, the wizard gives him powers. He says, say blah, blah, blah. That's a mouthful. He says, say Shazam. So Billy says Shazam, and becomes Shazam. And it's a great design, much like the Black Adam one. I love the way Gary Frank draws it once again. Just really great stuff there. And again, I love the hood.
The hood is just...
Yeah, the hood is great.
I love... I don't know. One thing I love about the design probably the most is the way the gold sort of is drawn and reflects. Like all the gold bits are always reflecting. And it's genuinely quite interesting. I also love that there's something updated, so it isn't just saying the name, you have to say the name with purpose. So he can't just say, yes, my name is Shazam. Turns back into Billy Batson.
That really annoyed me in the movie that, like, anytime he said it, it would happen.
I have mixed thoughts of that, which we will get to at the end of this.
Yeah.
I love the reaction of Billy, like Billy, who at the beginning of this story kind of couldn't wait to grow up at least a little bit to get out of the system. And now he's old and it's like, oh, that's weird. I
do kind of feel like there's, at least for me, in both versions, like the movie and the book, there's a little bit of disappointment when he transforms because, like, you get to know Billy so well in the beginning, and his face is always so well drawn that it's like suddenly it's like, whoa, there's a whole new face now.
He is a completely different person, which is great for a secret identity.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think Frank draws it really well to make it look like an older Billy, but not necessarily one that you might think this Billy will become, which I really, really like.
Yeah.
Also, it's nice to have. I will say it's nice now to actually have a connection to the character when the thing that he's appeared in the most that the podcast has covered outside of Flashpoint was The Dark Knight Strikes Again.
Oh, he's in that.
He's in that.
You know, to be fair, he actually does have some decent moments in that.
He has some decent moments, or as close to decent moments as you get with that comic.
Yeah, he has the best gratuitous character death in that. So there's that. Anyway, so Billy tests out his new powers. He's super strong. You know, he can fly now, or he doesn't know that he can fly yet. But he has all these powers. And then the wizard, as the wizard sort of falls over, Billy goes to like help him, and the wizard transports him then back to where he was. He goes back.
But before that, what's interesting is that he says, you know, your powers are vast beyond your flight and strength, and the spells you can weave. There's so many. You must learn them. Watch over your family as I should have. Family is not what it can be, not what it should be. That is your secret spell, your ultimate power. Put a pin in that. Come to that later. And yeah, then he is sent back as. I think it's as the wizard's basically dying. And his reappearance in front of Freddy is almost framed like a horror sequence.
yeah, especially with the line like you see him, his eyes are covered, he's got this evil grin on, he's like, I'm back, it really happened.
It's somehow both an evil grin and just a shit-eating grin.
Yeah, he comes in, Freddy starts to try to run away, and Billy picks him up.
By the scruff of the neck.
It's such a great moment. Like I love like that moment when Freddy realizes then, and they just start like fucking around. So they pick up the Briar's car then, right? Or no, they don't go back there yet, or do they?
No, they do.
Well, they do go back there, but that is their car. Yep. Okay. So he lifts up the car. The Briars come out. It is a baseball bat, by the way, Jacob.
It's a baseball bat. Okay.
There it is again. So they destroy the car. They destroy the car. Billy and Freddy run away, just being dicks. I
love that this is what sort of makes Billy have a family. Just being kind of an asshole, but only to people who deserve it.
Yeah.
And what I love is that Johns writes a very fine line from like keeping it as no, he's still just a kid and still wants what a kid would want. And this is just now kind of a way really that he can express it now that he's an adult. Like he also wants to try to find some clothes, but doesn't, because almost immediately they come across a woman being mugged. And because Billy's still Billy, he intervenes.
To save her. He throws this guy across the street into a car. Very possibly, no, he doesn't kill him. Well, maybe it'll kill him eventually. But the woman thanks him. She's like, "How can I ever thank you?" And he's like, "Well, I'm a little short on cash," and so she gives him $20,
and he's so happy.
I mean, this is a kid who's probably never really seen any sort of money in his life. Yeah. Now he's just gotten $20 from this woman he saved.
Yeah.
The panel of that whole next page is just amazing, with like Billy and Freddy being so, and then just like, we're gonna be rich.
It's so funny.
This buff Superman looking guy just do like, yeah, $20.
$20.
It's so funny. I absolutely love it.
It's amazing.
Yeah. But we then catch back up with Savannah and Black Adam
in New York City.
York City. And so Black Adam is learning of what this world has become since he last walked among it. And he is naturally disappointed. So he takes Savannah down.
So we find out Savannah's family isn't dead, they're sick.
That's it.
We don't know. I will say it is kind of a drop ball that we don't get more on this. Like,
and I'm pretty sure this is like the second of 3 times that they're mentioned.
Yeah, it's only mentioned once or twice.
Like, if you're gonna do this, we need more.
Yeah.
Well, he almost didn't need a motivation. He could have just been like convinced that magic exists and just
And
like
been evil, like
Which again
Legend of
is
Black.
why I really like what the film did with him, that he's one of the kids that was approached by the wizard.
Oh yeah, that's fantastic.
yes.
And also his father is
John Glover.
John Glover. So there's that. Anyway,
what I find interesting is that Black Adam thinks people have these empty lives, and this scene is kind of integral for who Black Adam is, because he sees a protest, basically of capitalism against capitalism and corporate greed, and he realizes, oh, the person they're angry at is right there. So he just busts in, grabs the man, and throws him to his death. Now, great, cool, stick it to the man and all, but also that's fucking terrifying. Like,
and the people react naturally; they run away from him.
And Black Adam is just confused. He's like, slaves, you are free. It's like, their language, teach it to me.
It's one of the more interesting takes on the villain who thinks they're the hero of it all.
Because in some ways he does have, some good motivations. He does seem to kind of care for people, at least a little bit.
And in that moment, like, he genuinely thinks he's helping these people. He's like, oh, well, you don't like this guy? Fine, I'll get rid of this guy.
Yeah, I love his line when like Savannah's explaining what's going on. They're protesting, they're angry, the man they work for has stolen their livelihood, and he just goes, then the world has not changed as much as you believe, Savannah. Pharaohs still live off slaves.
Yeah.
Which is a great line.
Yeah, really great stuff. But yeah, so Black Adam breaks into the earth, takes this little triangle from his belt and puts it into a doorway, or makes a doorway, I guess.
And enters the Rock of Eternity at last.
Black Adam then sees that the wizard is dead. And so he has to go. He realizes the wizard has given his powers to a new champion. So Black Adam's new mission is to find this new champion. Meanwhile, Billy and Freddy are still being dicks together. They buy a coat for $10,
a giant trench coat,
which Billy still barely fits into.
It makes Shazam look almost like a Frank Miller character, like just a little bit.
Yeah. And how much it accentuates his muscles in a weird way, But yeah, so they still have $10 left. They decide to go get food. They oh no, sorry, we don't catch up with them immediately. That's weird.
No.
But meanwhile, we go over to Brooklyn, where Black Adam kills a pizza guy, I guess.
A pizza guy who's delivering 4 pizzas to one person.
So he goes. So Black Adam is here to see this one person. He taps his head with lightning, and the person turns into a sloth, one of the 7 deadly sins. And Black Adam sort of recruits him to his mission to find the new champion.
Honestly, what I find interesting is that we don't get scenes of all the sins being recruited. It's basically just this one. And then
there's one more a little later, but
it's one more, and then the others are just there.
Yeah, but this is one of the coolest scenes, and it's such a good concept. I would have read a lot more of that if it were.
Yeah. Which again is kind of the thing about this being just a bunch of backup. But on the other hand, of being just a bunch of backup stories and not full issues. Like in full issues, you could have expanded on this quite a bit.
Yeah. So there are advantages and disadvantages, of course, and also the greatest thing of all would have been if they just kept doing more of this.
Yes. Or after this was a success.
Yeah.
Because
give it its own title.
At the time, the DC kept making new titles.
Yeah.
Give a full New 52 Shazam title.
Yeah.
I love the sort of the nuance here of the 7 deadly sins are we're Black Adam's sworn enemies, but he's like, no, let's work together, and they're actually I just think that it's cool the way that
yeah. But we catch back up with Billy and Freddy then. They have eaten and they are now out of money. So they go to an ATM and Billy zaps the ATM and it starts spewing out money. And I don't know, just a great little scene. um, Meanwhile, right next to them, there's a robbery going on. These guys in cartoon animal masks are running away with money. They've just robbed this place. Um, Billy stops them, of course, and he is shot at. Um, and
We learn that Billy is actually, bulletproof, and he's annoyed that his coat is, wasted. And then because they got the money, they're too busy enjoying life. They decide, well, I'm an adult now. I am an adult human being. I can purchase beer, which is such a childish thing.
I love it.
But
With
of course,
the money you got, there's more and better alcohol you could get that isn't just beer.
that's true. But beer is the go-to.
Which
So
they lampshade because it's like, Freddy says, I heard it all takes back.
Yeah, and then Billy's like, "Why do we want beer again?"
Which is swiftly distracted by another robbery.
Billy stops this guy, and they walk out of the store. Then, the guy says like, "How can I ever repay you?" They walk out of the store then with a bunch of like snacks and sodas, and it's great. They stop another guy, I guess. Another guy trying to like hotwire a car. It's kind of funny how they just sort of like keep coming across random crimes throughout the city.
Yeah, I will say one minor complaint is that this middle section with Billy and Freddy feels kind of like vamping, like we're just vamping until we can get.
I mean, it's doing some important like establishing work for like who they are. I think.
And they do at least explain here why he's running into all these things, which they don't in the movie. Which I watched with my sister, and she was pointing out like, "Why is he running into all these people?" And I was like, "Well, they explained it in the book."
I mean, at least in the movie, also it takes place over a longer period of time.
That's true.
Whereas this is literally one day.
Yeah.
This is one day. But yeah, Billy then sees in the mirror a face. And this is Francesca, who was at the Rock of Eternity.
Another one of the great characters who didn't make it to the movie.
I can kind of see why though. Like
yeah.
Like she's here for a reason, but I don't really think she's entirely like her deal is resolved or really all that well explained by the end.
I agree. But for now, all she's here to say is that Black Adam is free. Black Adam, beware Black Adam. He knows, and then the mirror cracks, and Billy then finds out that he can fly, and Freddy climbs on top of his back, and they fly together, and it's a great full page. I love that.
This was clearly an end of an issue.
Yeah,
this one clearly is. Maybe this was the end of the Zero issue? Because I know the
the Zero issue I'm pretty sure started with. I know it has the actual scene where he becomes Shazam in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I can't remember exactly where it cuts off. But it would have been well over by now.
Okay, that's so weird. Because Rachel, if you didn't realize, issue number 0 of Justice League and issue number 21 of Justice League are both like
full-on Shazam issues.
Yeah, they're just Shazam issues.
Yeah, they didn't have backups. They were just dedicated to continuing this story from the backups.
Interesting.
Yeah,
which is kind of weird. I think the last 20 pages or so has to be issue 21 because
the whole end of it is the last issue because then that's where the backup stopped.
Yes. But yeah, anyway, we see Billy and Freddy flying. And Freddy's like, we've really got to get home. There's school tomorrow. It's like, oh, you've got school tomorrow. And Billy's like, why would I ever want to change back? I'm not going to be a kid again, which is a very child who thinks they're more grown up than they actually are statement.
Mm-hmm.
And Freddy kind of lays into him for being, a condescending tool, and walks away. And I love that Billy is genuinely hurt by it.
Yeah.
Like when Billy does something genuinely awful and mean, he genuinely feels like actual remorse.
Yeah.
Showing that he is, deep down a good person.
hmm
Um,
So he looks behind him, looking for Freddy again, until he is attacked by none other than Black Adam, who has finally found the new champion. And I'm guessing. See, it's weird because I don't know if the flying was the end of a backup, because this is only like 4 pages later, and this is definitely the end of a backup.
this has to be the end of a backup.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an odd little game to play. I kind of want to get the single issues now, just to see where they all come.
Just to see.
Which would be a real waste of getting single issues, but I just kind of want to see. All right, so we go over to New Jersey and we catch up with Savannah and Sloth, and we meet our next one. I think this is Pride, right?
Yeah, this is Pride.
Yeah.
Which I guess I think the idea is that they were all like put to sleep as like a punishment into situations, like into weird
I
situations.
wonder if these were people that existed already and they just put these sins within, or if they were, or if they like these are the sins just made in human form. Because I kind of think I would find it a little bit more interesting if they put the sins within actual people.
It would also be terrifying if that was the case, because
oh god, yeah,
like I don't know what these people did to deserve something like that.
yeah.
I think I get the impression they're like the actual sins, just kind of, sort of
Hidden away, like in a human form.
Yeah, because they do kind of like all possess a person later.
That's true.
That's true.
The only reason that I guess I really like I was wondering about like the actual humans is I wonder if the humans were chosen because they inhabit those traits.
Yeah, that's a.
But anyway, we go back over to Shazam and Black Adam. Shazam not quite understanding the gravity of what's going on, and
And also, again, being a child's like, oh, your costume's way cooler than mine because it's all black. Which,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like you could have a commentary on the like supposed two philosophies of like superhero movies. One being all black, dark, and gritty. The other being colorful and happy.
Yeah.
But Billy, culminating in this great one where Billy is like, "Hey, how old are you?" And then like Black Adam just like punches him in the face, sends him flying across the street, across the city. It seems like he goes through like across multiple buildings into a tree, then into a building, and then into a store,
which I think is a mall.
Yeah, it's a mall.
And all I can say is, I feel like I put my finger in a wall socket, implying that he's done that before.
I mean, I have. I know I did it when I was a kid.
Your parents didn't have like little protector things?
Well, they did. I think mine was actually. I think this is a really stupid thing to say on recording. I think mine was. It was the open area of a lamp. It was like without a light bulb in it.
Joey.
Oh, look, I was like fucking 6 or 7. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, so Billy is sent into the mall, and Black Adam follows him in there. We fly past them all, Santa. It's a funny little moment.
Billy's like, you're gonna hurt someone. Yes, you. And Billy like, you're gonna stand up and fight, and he still gets his ass beat. And this is the first time he changes back to being human, because you really do get it, because like, oh shit, there are also other people in danger.
Yeah,
and Billy actually cares about other people.
It's also the easiest way to hide from Black Adam because he can't find him then. But yeah, so meanwhile, back at the home of the Vasquezes, Briar and his kids and the police go to their home and try to convince them of the damage done to their car, which they suspect is done by Billy.
Even though like Billy couldn't have done it because he's a child. Like,
yeah,
by every
Exactly.
piece of logic, unless he was, I don't know, a superhero or something.
Yeah.
Could not have done it.
Yeah. But yeah, Mr. Breyer like threatens Billy. I forget how. Hang on 1 second. Yeah, because Vasquez is like he's like, did you threaten Billy and Breyer, like, says some mean shit about him. Vasquez like then goes to like hit Breyer, and Breyer
I think
like,
he does actually punch him in the face,
does he?
or he's at least going to.
Yeah, because I think he's being held back in that one panel.
Yeah. And
But
Breyer
anyway,
being, a mediocre rich white man. He assaulted me. You all saw it. Arrest this leech and search this tax shelter. I want that boy dragged right out of there.
But everyone is very quickly distracted then by a bus flying through the air.
Although I do want to point out this great little joke where Breyer's like talking to the cops. He's like, "You will do whatever I ask, or I'll call Chief Chambers and cancel your Christmases." And this one officer just really quietly goes, "Actually, I'm Jewish."
That is funny.
It's such a good little joke.
Yeah.
Just random Jewish cop.
Meanwhile, Black Adam is just destroying the city in the hopes that the new champion will come out and face him finally.
It's a really great full-page panel of him just going, "Where are you hiding?"
Yeah.
Throwing cars behind him.
Yeah, really great stuff. But the whole city is
there's an emergency broadcast on TV, where Black Adam basically makes his demands. The power goes out. Freddy recognizes Billy, and you have Eugene, and you have Mary comforting Darla, and Freddy's like, if the guy in black is looking for Shazam, looking for who? I'm talking about Billy, Pedro. Billy is Shazam.
And they're all like, who's Shazam?
Who's Shazam? Because again, he's not himself a superhero. Also, what's really, really interesting is that we don't get an indication. We don't really get an indication that this is happening in the past of the New 52 DC universe.
Yeah, they don't exactly say when, and I can't remember if there's anything in Trinity War that says how recently it happened.
I mean, I have to imagine, right? Batman at least has to be active at this point, I would hope.
I would imagine, yeah.
Rachel, if you don't know, a quick refresher. When the DC rebooted the universe for the New 52, they said superheroes only started appearing 5 years ago. So Batman went through 4 Robins in a span of 5 years.
Hey. I think it's 6 years, Jacob. Give them credit.
Sorry. 6 years.
Yeah, come on, Jacob. You're better than that. But anyway, so the kids go out looking for Billy. Then they find him, of course, where Billy would always be. He's at the zoo with Tawny.
Billy references the Goonies, which is it feels like the generation of kids who were reading this on publication may not have seen the Goonies.
I feel like because of that, this has got to take place contemporary to when it came out.
It's got to. Because
Billy would, I guess, be old enough to have seen the Goonies, but nobody else there, I guess, because Darla says, "What are the Goonies?"
What are the Goonies?
Yeah.
And
it's funny.
Freddy's, ready to rip into Billy. Billy says, "Why'd you bring them?" And Darla's just like, "Because we want to see you change into Shazam." Because she is a child. And that's great.
Yeah. But yeah, so they all talk to Billy about what's going on. They go out looking for a way to I guess stop Black Adam. So they go into the sewers.
Billy also genuinely thinks that he shouldn't have been chosen. That maybe there could have been someone who's actually pure of heart in the way the wizard thought.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're not trying to stop Black Adam right now. Billy's trying to give his powers away. Jeez. But yeah, so all the kids follow him there. He goes back down into the subway to hopefully find the wizard again.
And on the next page, we see the 7 sins have gathered.
One of them kind of looks like Clayface.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm not sure which one that's supposed to be though.
Maybe Gluttony.
Maybe that would make sense.
Gluttony's like the drooling one.
Yeah. And like the big red one is probably Wrath.
Well, yeah, because
Yeah,
I said that was Wrath
I
earlier.
was
The
I
purple
was
one's
working it out
Pride.
earlier when I was reading this.
Yeah, the purple one's Pride. The green one is Envy. The blue one's Sloth. What are the other two?
Lust is the one in the straight jacket,
Yeah.
Okay.
and then Greed is the guy with the
The
giant
giant
back.
backpack.
Yeah, but who would be the sort of like hunchback guy up front?
Yeah, that's Greed.
What?
Because of
No,
the
no, no.
giant.
You mean
No,
Savannah?
no. The hunchback guy next to between Envy and Sloth.
That's Greed.
Yeah, because of the giant backpack.
Oh, okay. All right, that makes sense. Okay, sorry. But oh yeah, sorry, I was mixing them up. Sorry about that. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, so all the deadly sins have gathered. Meanwhile, they go back. The kids go back into the subway. And Billy is met on an iPad with Francesca once again, who decides to tell Billy more about Black Adam. Um, as this is all happening, the seven deadly sins start to wreak havoc on the city. Francesca then starts to tell Billy about Black Adam's backstory and where he came from.
And
And
I didn't know this. I obviously didn't really know this backstory. And
I love the way
it's
this is done because I
Yeah.
mean it does some great like subversion of expectations here that I think is really effective on first read.
Yeah.
yeah. And it sort of explains a lot of Black Adam's outlook on life and sort of existence, like not necessarily his motivation, because he's motivated. He's obviously motivated by power and wanting more power. Maybe even changing the hierarchy of power in the DC universe.
But we go back in time many years ago to Kendak. We focus in on this child whose people and his people who have been sort of enslaved. This kid is with his, I believe, uncle, right?
Yes.
Yeah, uncle. He's with his uncle. This kid gets found by the wizard, or not just the wizard, but these other wizards here that grant these powers. And and the kid is given the powers of Shazam. He would have been the champion of the time, or that is what Billy immediately assumes. As Billy then goes out to confront Black Adam, because he thinks he understands Black Adam now, because Black Adam was a kid just like him when he got these powers. And so he's like, he's like, I know why you're angry, because you're trying to hide how scared you really are. And Black Adam, immediately pushes that to the side. He's like, you think I'm scared? You don't know anything. And he finishes the story that was not finished for Billy, in which I really wanted to know like what you two thought of this moment where they sort of like pulled the ring out from under you in this moment where like the kid did actually get the powers, but he goes to see his uncle then, and his uncle is revealed to be Black Adam. Because he killed his nephew instead and took his powers from him, and it's fucking awful. Like
it is so dark.
actually, I think honestly, the most effective page here is not the one where he kills the kid, but the reveal when the kid hugs his uncle and he says, "I love you, Uncle Adam," which is the first time you realize who that is. And you're like, "Oh God, they're gonna fucking do that,"
It's very much like, again, the entire theme of this book is family and the importance of family. So of course, someone who completely fucked their own family as the villain just works so well. And like it
the reason that he did it was because the kid wanted to try to usher in a new era of mercy, and Adam wanted to just slaughter everyone who had like harmed their people.
And like he's still just a little sympathetic because
yeah,
they were slaves.
Yeah,
they were slaves.
He is not unreasonable.
I'd be really curious for you two to watch the Black Adam movie to see how they do that backstory.
I am also very interested in.
I imagine they don't do it amazingly because of things I know about The Rock and his contracts.
I mean, a fair bit of it is the same. The part that's different is pretty much just that they remove all the edge from it.
Of course.
See, here's the thing. I wouldn't call this like needless edge, though.
Oh no, I'm not saying it's needless edge, but like the edge of the scene comes from the fact that this old guy killed his nephew so that he could enslave these people.
Yes.
And yeah, like obviously that they're not going to do that in the movie where they're trying to portray Black Adam as more of an anti-hero than a straight up villain.
I would even, or as what I can see sort of from the trailers, more closer to hero than anti, especially with.
That's not quite how the film portrays it, but I mean, you can watch it, you can find out, you know. But anyway, so Billy is horrified by this naturally, and Black Adam goes to kill Billy, but he is hit by a truck. He's hit by a truck. Is that it?
So what we see, you're kind of jumping ahead. We see, the other kids being like, right, we got to save Billy, we got to do something. It's like, well, what do we do? So there's a garbage truck, and Pedro.
That's right.
Pedro
I
knows how to drive because of a long story involving his grandfather and his moose. I want to know this story.
Yeah.
I don't want to know the story. I think it's better the way it is.
Also, I love, and I was noticing this earlier in the book too, just the way that the kids are always distinguishable by the colors of their coats.
Yes.
It works really well.
Yeah.
And I think the colors also really are informed by their personalities in a way. Like, especially with like the way that they're drawn. Like, Pedro's an orange, but it's not a bright orange. It's a more muted orange to reflect he's kind of one of the quieter kids. Whereas Darla's in these bright purples and pinks, where she's just bubbly and happy and amazing.
Yeah.
But anyway, then we see Black Adam being hit by a truck.
That's it. Okay, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
A la Mean Girls.
Yes. So, what a weird reference. Anyway, so Billy is freed. Billy turns back into Shazam, and as Black Adam threatens the rest of the kids, we then go over to the 7 Deadly Sins again. We see Savannah is weakening through all this for some reason.
The idea is that he can't actually handle the magic, which they foreshadowed. John's foreshadowed subtly earlier, but almost too subtly.
Over a little bit, but Adam did outright tell him like, your body isn't able to channel the magic properly.
So he's dying. We have Black Adam having all the kids. We see Billy, we see the Vasquezes genuinely scared, like, holy shit, all the kids are gone. Like, what's going on? Meanwhile, the Sins start to find, their host. They take over Briar, and they're gonna burn the city to the ground. And it takes a while for Billy to understand kind of what he has to do. Like, you see Mr. Briar turn into this giant fuck you demon.
Okay, so I gotta say something pretty funny actually, because we were just talking about the Black Adam movie. Mr. Briar turns into a character called Sabak from the comics, who is the villain of the Black Adam movie.
Well, I mean, at least the relationship there is established as not a very great one in the comic, I guess.
That's true. Yeah.
Maybe they shouldn't have let Dwayne Johnson play Black Adam as immediately the protagonist of his own film.
Yeah, like I feel like you could put Black Adam on a redemption arc.
You could.
If they made Dwayne Johnson the villain of the first Shazam film, and they adapted this comic a bit more straight, maybe minus Sabak,
and even maybe some of the seven sins being a little more reduced in their role in the film as they are.
Yeah, but like you could take Black Adam in a direction where he like could lead into his own solo film and do those things eventually. But
to have a redemption arc, you have to have a place to redeem
as it stands, I really don't hate the Black Adam movie. It's fine. But yeah, we could have handled the character much better. But Anyway, I just wanted to mention that because, yeah, I thought it was really funny that he showed up here. And I forgot that he was in this because I haven't read this, obviously, since the Black Adam movie came out. So when I went to reread it, I was like, oh, God, that's fucking him, isn't it? So, yeah. Anyway, so so this giant demon thing is unleashed. Black Adam is still threatening the rest of the kids. And Shazam is visited once again by Francesca.
In a puddle.
Yes, who says, "Do not forget what the wizard told you. Family is what it can be, not what it should be." And so Billy says, like, family is what it can be, not what it should be. The secret spell, say the word now. And so he says it. He says all the kids to say it. And they all turn into the Shazam family, and it's a great little 2-page spread. They all have their own Shazam costumes, and it's lovely.
I'll say this is part of the shame why it's such a shame that there wasn't a sequel with the family. Like,
although in the book they lose their powers like shortly after, and that's one of the things I think the movie did better in that they don't lose their powers.
Yeah. And that just gives more time to them in general.
Except for Pedro. Pedro actually gets more interesting stuff in the book.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
Also, best costume is easily Darla's.
Yeah.
I love her.
Darla's adult form was kind of underwhelming in the movie.
Oh, really? I like them all in the movie.
I felt like she looked older than the others, which was odd.
Huh. I don't know, but yeah, so I don't know. I still like them all in the movie. But anyway, yeah. So they all have powers now. I do
really like the bit like right before where like when he says Shazam and Black Adam thinks he's giving his power to him, and then he just goes, I don't feel any difference.
Well, you see, Black Adam, maybe the power was within you all along. Because you murdered your nephew, you bastard. But
yeah, they all have powers now. They all go after Black Adam collectively.
What do we do, Billy? Get him? And they just all yell, "Get him!"
It's so like, fun. Okay, we got him. It's just kids given godlike powers. What do they do with that? They don't know what to do, and it's really fun. I love it. I love the setup. It's portrayed brilliantly. Yeah, great stuff.
And they they work as a team. But what doesn't the climax of this, you can feel it's trying to wrap up all in one issue instead of letting the kids explore their powers and work together as a team. Because Black Adam kind of is no match. Really, the kids are no match for Black Adam. Mm. He grabs Darla, who has basically has super speed. Billy and Mary fight together to save Darla. Eugene, so he gets Freddy out from under a van and can hear every car, computer, even the cell phones in the city. Like, he has telekinesis, but for computers. And he summons. It's the idea that he might be able to telepathically control the ice cream van. Like, or he tells the van, "Thank you."
So they all start to sort of split up then.
The idea is the family's going to go and try to evacuate everyone while Billy's going to take on Black Adam alone. Billy,
they start evacuating everybody. Mary gets to take on Sabak at first by herself, which is really cool. I love that moment.
She goes, like, she zaps him, and then she goes, "Freddy was right. This is sweet."
I also just love the way her face is drawn when she zaps him.
Yeah,
it's just fun. Also, then the tiger is let loose. Tawny goes after Black Adam temporarily before Black Adam punches Tawny across the city. Before, of course, Billy gives Tawny his powers, and Tawny
because we need a super powered motherfucking tiger.
every
Yes, we
comic book should
do.
have a superpowered motherfucking tiger. It has to happen. And so I love the full page then when the superpowered motherfucking tiger attacks Black Adam. And it's great. Anyway, but yeah, we see Savannah's continuing to weaken here. Billy and Black Adam are face to face here once again. Black Adam's costume is starting to get torn up. The rest of the family is starting to lose their powers slowly. Was it Mary loses her ability to fly first, and
Pedro starts losing some of his strength.
Mhm.
You know, their powers are fading, and this whole idea is, Black's like, "Oh, I'm superior in every way. You can't beat me." And it's like, "You're right." So he becomes, a kid again, and it's like, "Oh, so if you're attempting to give me your power, no, I'm not. I'm proving a point. You're threatening people like Ibeck threatened you and your family. You're no hero, Black Adam. You're a bully." Which, if Black Adam was in Shazam, like this scene would have hit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Also,
Of course,
this is so Billy Batson that he's just like, I'm proving a point.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, the same way they did to the wizard, like he's just proving a point
Yeah.
rather than like trying to be heroic here, even though he does actually have a plan here. Because Black Adam's like, fine, I will turn back. I will show you how much better I am than you. So he says Shazam and he becomes Teth Adam again. And because he has not switched back from his Black Adam form for what, literally centuries,
centuries.
his body starts to wither and crumble and literally turn to dust right in front of Billy. Which I guess, again, if you did this in the Shazam movie, you have the issue of Dwayne Johnson can't lose a fight. So
Yeah.
so
yeah.
there's that.
I mean,
And also,
I hate to say it, the way you fix Black Adam in the DC cinematic universe. Well, sorry, Dwayne.
yeah. And
It's
he's fine
either
in the role. Like he's pretty decent in the movie.
no, he's there's a reason he loves the role,
Oh
but
yeah, because he's good at it. Like yeah,
but
just
either he's fired or he loses a fight. Like
yeah,
these are your options.
yeah. But because of this, Mr. Breyer loses his powers and he just becomes a naked, creepy old guy in the middle of the street.
And he gets laughed at,
Yeah.
and he hates that he's being laughed at. Also, they pretty much destroyed the school, and everything is just kind of a really happy ending. Like Francesca, magic has its champion again. The monsters have gone away, and we end basically on Christmas.
It's Christmas and all the kids are together and they open their gifts and Freddie says, after all this, are you still gonna stick around, Billy? And Billy says, well, where else am I gonna go? And it's nice, it's lovely. And then as a little tease, that's really gonna go nowhere, I think, is we get Dr. Savannah going into the wizard's chamber himself and finding a little caterpillar man um, whose name is Mr. Mind, which they did keep in the film, which I really
They did adapt in the
Yeah.
film.
That's
Which part of me is hoping maybe he'll show up again in the sequel.
You better, because it's our last chance.
Please.
So,
Well, unless Gun.
I know it's not going to happen, but I would love if they just carried over Zachary Levi into the new DC universe.
I know certain parts of Twitter would hate that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'd argue it's actually he's kind of a perfect choice. But yeah, so like that's Shazam.
That's Shazam. Yeah, yeah. It's a really fun book.
It's really good. It's really good. Rachel, considering you haven't read many like arcs, what do you think?
I really like it. It's definitely, I would say, one of like my favorite comic things I've read.
Cool. It's incredibly fun. Like I think like
Yeah.
I think like despite the fact that it is technically part of a larger like ongoing story arc in Justice League, like it can be enjoyed on its own, and it could easily be somebody's first comic if they really wanted to,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know because I don't know what happens in Trinity War, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I believe...
so really, Trinity War doesn't tie so much into the story itself. It's more just setting up Shazam to be a part of it.
So this is all set up anyways. Like it's a nice origin. Yeah. I think because of the Shazam movie, they're promoting this book again.
As they should. It's great.
As they should. It's great. I hope once again at certain screenings you get to take home a comic book.
Yeah,
that'd be
It would probably be like the 0 issue of Justice League, I'd imagine.
Probably.
Probably.
But yeah, it's great. We did also watch the 2019 film as adapted material for this episode. We talked a lot about it throughout this episode, but it really is just a great adaptation. It
I
does
will
just
say,
enough.
what I love is that it doesn't. So, like, the subject matter of Shazam in general has been kind of saccharine sweet. Like, it's been really sweet, and all there's a lot of childlike whimsy, and certain films seem to have like you want to put any sort of whimsy or childlike sort of like the magic of childhood or anything like the beat most people go to is like, oh, let's recoil from that. But I think both the comic and the film do a really good job of genuinely trying to play it straight and not trying to like, ooh, isn't this just so sweet? Let's do a random quip. Like they cast genuinely great kids.
Mm-hmm.
I love the way they adapted Freddy as just like a superhero fanboy.
Yeah.
I prefer Freddy in the book, like significantly, but he was good in the movie too, for sure.
And I love the kid playing him. He's awesome.
Yeah.
He also voiced Superboy. I think he voiced Superboy in the Battle of the Super Sons.
Oh, I did not realize that was him. Oh, that's really cool.
I know he's
awesome.
I know he's Alberto and Luca.
Yeah, so
he's cool. Nice.
And my sister said he's one of the kids in It.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Yeah,
that is right. Yep. Okay, he's a great actor. He's. Yeah. I'm glad he's getting work.
Yes.
Yeah, really good for him.
I think for me in the movie the standout was Asher Angel playing Billy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's
so
wonderful. Good. Yeah, I love they focus a lot more on him being curious about like his real parents throughout a lot of it. He even has
really well done.
He even has a confrontation with like his mom at the end, and I think that's just so well handled.
I love that the film is unflinchingly just unflinching in the face of committing to that plot line and committing to make the mom kind of a terrible person,
or at the very least just showing why Billy's quest for his mom isn't the most important thing to him, and why it shouldn't be, I think it works out really nicely, and as we mentioned already, just the casting throughout the whole film is just
okay. Phenomenal. Zachary Levi, right? Like, he's so good. Like,
insanely good.
I'm not 100% thrilled with him.
Oh, come on.
I feel like he's funny, but I feel like there's a lot of times where he just doesn't feel like the same character as Billy.
I will say, adding some of the stuff in, expanding the time, and I don't entirely love the sort of almost addicted to the fame plot line that they went with for Billy and Freddy.
I think it works though.
It works, but it's a plot line it's a plot archetype I already just don't love.
Yeah.
I mean, that plot line is already present sort of in the book.
Yeah, but nowhere near to the extent that the film sort of just makes it almost its entire second act.
I mean, the book just doesn't have as much time to do that plot line though.
And I think I prefer the less time in the book, but one thing I do like about the fact that it takes over more time in the movie is we get like the thing with just him being popular on YouTube, and then there's like all the different names that different people know him by.
Oh yeah,
which is just a really funny gag.
Yeah, that bit's really fun.
Also, I love that we did in the film get so much more focus on the other kids as well. Like like I know it's kind of a shame that Briar was cut out, but like his two kids being sort of the human normal antagonists for Billy and Freddy, and it like work really well and feel realistic. It works well. I genuinely think the comedy also genuinely works.
It lands. Yep.
And Darla is amazing.
Darla's lovely.
Somehow they translated that precociousness and just adorableness to screen perfectly.
Yeah.
I know we already mentioned it, but just like Mark Strong as Savannah is so good too. They do a lot to add to his character in the film, and he's one of the things about the film that actually is better than the book, I would say.
I love the way they
definitely
really
his
establish him
backstory.
as a villain, like where he's researching magic and he just kills the woman he's researching with. Like it doesn't really he probably could have stopped her from from dying, but he just doesn't step in. And Strong's performance in that scene is genuinely a great little performance.
But what is better though, Jacob? His performance as Sivana or his performance as Sinestro in the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern film?
See, I don't remember that film very well. I know I've seen it, but
we're gonna watch it someday. We're gonna watch it.
Yeah.
I saw like 10 minutes of that movie once.
Here's the thing, though. The cast. I know I must have mentioned it a bunch of times in the podcast already, but the casting is just so good in it, and the fact that the rest of it sucks so bad is what hurts. You know? And Mark Strong as Sinestro is just perfect. Also, just one last little comment before I guess we start to close out. David F. Sandberg's directing. He does a really great job with the material, I think.
Is he directing the sequel?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Ooh, so that means the sequel is going to at least look nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And should have the same energy and charisma, I think.
Yeah.
I really like the way that they do the like people being transported to the Rock of Eternity and all that stuff. Like it's really it's got the vibe of like just it's not like in a sense it's childlike wonder, but it's not like aggressively like this is childlike wonder. It's like the way that you imagine like just to use an example that comes to my mind, like it's like the way that I imagined that like going from the wardrobe to Narnia would be when I read the book, and then like it's not as cool in the movie because you can only do so much with it, but I feel like what it could have been, like just the vibe of that is really captured in this movie.
And I think a lot of that's just down to the cinematography.
Yeah.
Also, like the sequence with the doors, like it goes lights go balls to the wall crazy. Like there are random crocodile people.
I love that so much.
I think it's like two of them are played by Fred Tatasciore and Steve Bloom.
Oh, really? Oh, that's awesome.
Who are also doing some of the voices for The Sins.
That is perfect. Yeah. Really great stuff. It's a great film. One of my favorite DCEU films, personally.
Honestly, I think people should see the film. Like,
yeah, definitely. And should check out the sequel, which comes out next month. Or when we're recording this episode in January, but it comes out in February. So yeah, next month, Fury of the Gods comes out. I think we're gonna try to do a bonus episode on it.
We're going to attempt.
Yeah,
we're gonna see if Jacob can get to the theater.
You can do it. You got it.
We can schedule it before I go on vacation.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess that about does it for our Shazam discussion.
Yes.
Jacob, so it is my understanding that you have some guesses as to what the next episode is.
Actually, I want to ask, even if I wonder if we could continue what we did last time of having Mason guest and having our lovely guest Rachel give a guess on what we might be covering on the next episode, knowing that she doesn't know any story arcs. Do you have any guesses?
Take a wild stab in the dark, Rachel.
A wild stab in the dark. I don't even know.
Name a character. A character or a team or something.
Okay. Batman? I don't even.
Okay, I'll say this. Batman is involved.
Okay.
So given that information, Jacob, it is my understanding that you have
I have a guess, and I think it's right.
Okay.
I think we're going to do Trinity War.
We are indeed doing Trinity War.
I'm guessing the Grid too.
Yeah, we're gonna do the Grid and Trinity War. So here's the thing: it's gonna be a long episode. The
It
Grid and
is.
Trinity War altogether is 15 issues.
Good to know.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot. So yeah, but yeah, so we're continuing our Justice League reading finally, which I'm pretty excited about. It's been a while since we've done one of those.
With
So
volumes 4 and
and Trinity
4.5.
Trinity War is Trinity War was advertised as like the entire thing that the New 52 was leading up to.
So we'll get some explanations to the stuff way back in Flashpoint and the first 2
Flashpoint
volumes.
And Origin, some of the things you've seen from there. Yeah, so lots to do there. It should be really fun. So
Okay,
yeah,
I'm
we'll do that next
excited.
time. Yeah, it'll be fun. So I guess let's start to close out. Jacob, what do you have to promote? Anything?
Well, if you've been following me on my blog, I've been doing a bunch of different non-Doctor Who reviews and mainly reviewing sci-fi and fantasy, but the occasional mystery here and there. That's what I've been doing in my creative spaces. As always, we'll have my link tree if you'd like to follow me on social media, depending on what social media the landscape is when this episode comes out. As the ever ambiguous state of Twitter imploding.
Yeah. I say this cautiously. At the time of recording, things seem okay on the Twitter front.
Yeah. See, I've noticed a couple of glitches starting to happen.
As have I, and as have
could-
others, I imagine.
that could
But,
indicate the website falling apart slowly.
yes. But
Um,
hey, who knows? Follow us there anyway. It might be fun. Who knows? Yeah. Rachel, it was my understanding you didn't really have anything to promote, but hey, you're just an awesome person, so there's that.
Thanks.
No,
Yeah.
seriously, thank you so much for being on. It really
Yeah.
has been awesome. I'm really happy to have you on this episode.
I'm glad I could be here.
Yeah, usually we get guests on for like episodes featuring like big characters like Batman or Superman, but to have someone on for like an episode that's just a little bit more obscure, a character that isn't quite as well known as the big ones, is really nice, and it was really greatly appreciated to have you on. It was awesome.
Thanks.
So yeah, as far as I go, for whatever you see on the channel,
if you haven't already, last month,
yeah.
Joey released the first video in a series of 12 videos going through Breaking Bad and its
Better Call Saul, the Breaking Bad universe, showing my friend Brian, who refuses to be on this podcast.
We will get him on someday.
We're gonna get him on someday. I swear it's gonna happen. But he's watching through Breaking Bad, and we're recording videos on that. We're doing a video per season, and it'll take us through the end of the year. So yeah, it'll be awesome. Yeah, that'll be great. And also be sure to keep up on the Star Trek videos. And actually, since this is coming out in February, you can actually go over to my coffee. And if you like the Star Trek videos, you can, if you want to, you can support the channel. You can support my online work, and you can get the Star Trek videos a full week early before they come out. So yeah, that's really cool. You could do that, and it would be greatly appreciated if you want to support the channel and support me and things I want to do this year creatively. So yeah, that's awesome. And also be sure to subscribe to us wherever you're listening to us, be it Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever other platforms we're on. We're on a bunch of them now. I can't even keep track of all of them, but they're all there. And be sure to subscribe to Blood Donut Studios on YouTube. That means a lot to us. And my link tree will also be down in the description below. You can check that out. And also, if you want to read Shazam, if you haven't already, if you listen to this whole episode and you find yourself interested, you could buy it. I'll leave an Amazon link down in the description below, as well as
if you'd
links.
like to read what we're reading next time, will be linked below.
Yeah, the Grid and Trinity War. Be sure to check those out, as we'll be reading those next time. That comes out in 2 weeks, as always, with all of our Fresh Face Comics episodes. And I think that about does it. Wow, it's taking a long time to promote anymore. Jesus.
Yes. I mean, imagine what happens if we get more sponsors.
Oh, I mean, not that I don't want that, of course, but like...
But it would be a decent read. I think at that point, then we need to just assign ad read duties to me.
For real. We're gonna start giving it to guests.
Yes. Rachel, you are going to read our ads for us.
I'm gonna get John to read them in his Batman voice.
Yes.
Ooh, yes.
That's what I'm gonna do. Anyway, so thank you all so much for listening. It really has meant a lot. Until next time, this has been Joey Morgan
and Jacob Licklider
and Rachel Pernell.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.